She was cleaning an empty lab until a dragon woke up and said thank you. The dragon opened one golden eye and whispered, "Thank you." No warning, no rumble, no roaring engines, no alarms. Just the soft hiss of ancient breath and the impossible weight of silence breaking. Janessa Lorne froze, mop mid-swing, standing ankle-deep in sterilization foam. She wasn't supposed to be there. No one was. The lab was sealed, classified, and technically non-operational. She had snuck in for extra credits on her janitorial shift. Now something scaled and massive was staring at her from inside a containment cradle older than the war she studied in history classes. The thing, dragon, alien, weapon, didn't growl, didn't pounce. It just blinked again, one eye at a time, and repeated softly, "Thank you." Her mop dropped with a wet slap. A hologram flickered to life above the containment pod. Red alerts scrolled across it in 6 alien languages, all translating to the same terrifying phrase. Stasis interruption detected. Resurrection protocol engaged. Entity classified. Galactic level extinction event. Janessa's breath caught. She had just woken up a dragon, and the dragon knew her name. "You look just like her," it said, curling its massive claws gently around the broken pieces of an old metal locket lying on the floor. Outside, the orbital sirens began to wail. Inside, Janessa's world had just changed forever. Janessa Lorne wasn't a soldier, scientist, or spy. She was a cleaner, or more precisely, a Level 3 maintenance cadet in the United Terran Fleet's Infrastructure Guild. The kind of person who got assigned to off-limits decks and decommissioned research bays because no one else cared enough to object. The Atlas blacksite was one of those places. Orbiting the dying moon Velis 5, it was a forgotten relic from the Zeridian conflict, a war humanity barely survived. Now it floated in silence, wrapped in bureaucratic red tape and half-dissolved files. Most believed it to be abandoned, its value stripped, its secrets erased. Janessa knew better. Her brother Alec once worked here before his death, if death it was. The records listed combat casualty, but no battlefield or body was ever named. All she had left of him was a broken data pad full of encrypted logs and a whisper he had left behind. "If anything happens to me, go to Atlas. Look for the one that sleeps beneath fire." She thought it was a metaphor, a memory, but now, face to face with a scaled behemoth stretching within the containment cradle, it felt terrifyingly literal. The lab around her was cold, clinical, and ancient. Frost clung to old cryostasis pipes and dust layered abandoned terminals. The main pod was sealed with a biotech lattice, part metal, part organic, likely banned decades ago. Inside the pod, the being shifted slightly, folding and unfolding wings that shimmered like obsidian woven with starlight. "Your eyes carry her memory," it said again. Its voice was deep but restrained, like a storm trying to speak without blowing out windows. "Who?" Janessa whispered, the air thin, lungs heavy. "The one who died to cage me." A beat, then, "Your blood carries the debt, and now the debt is broken." Suddenly the lights flickered. Something else had detected the awakening. Janessa tapped her wrist pad, pulling up her comms overlay, but static blanketed every channel. No uplink, no outlink. The entire deck was cut off. And then, something even worse appeared. "Biolock override engaged. Level 0 admin access granted. Entity monitoring initiated." "No, no, no, no," she muttered. "That's not me. I'm just a janitor." The dragon tilted its head. Its neck pulsed with a faint glow. Not anymore. In the shadowed corridors above, motion sensors came online. In the orbital station's command core, long-dead satellites stirred. And in hidden places throughout the system, others began to wake. Not with thanks, but with orders to destroy. The dragon exhaled slowly, its breath steaming the reinforced glass. Despite its size, it hadn't moved to break free. Yet. But Janessa could feel it, a low-frequency pressure at the edge of her mind, like the presence of an old storm rolling in. "What do you mean, the one who died to cage you?" she asked, edging toward a deactivated terminal. "She was your blood. She betrayed the pact. She locked me here for the good of your species. She was wrong. The pod lights flared. Status lights flickered. Security drones reactivated. Metallic whirs echoed through the corridor behind her. Not friendly ones. Janessa snapped her wrist pad back into action and swiped through the command logs. The encryption was ancient military grade, Zeridian War era, but the logs were clear enough. Project Argentus. Status, contained. Type, non-xenogenic biological entity. Tier Omega. Function, unknown. Threat rating, classified. The last entry had been made 47 years ago. Subject sentient, vocal, requests dialogue, requests forgiveness, requests death. She looked at the dragon again. It didn't seem like something asking to die. Thud, thud. Something heavy was moving down the corridor outside the lab. You need to leave this place, the dragon said suddenly. Now. Then come with me. I cannot, not until you accept what you are. What I am, I clean floors and wipe glass, that's it. The dragon's eyes narrowed slightly. You are the last of her bloodline. That makes you keyholder. That makes you inheritor. Suddenly, the wall-mounted alert panels pulsed scarlet. Warning, automated terminators activated. Target, all living entities in Sector 7A. Purge protocol in 000432. That's not right, Janessa said. There's no one here but me. The dragon's claw tapped the glass gently. Exactly. Somewhere above them, the terminators dropped from the ceiling. Military-class insectoid walkers. Rusted but brutal, their AI still loyal to the blacksite's original directives. Containment at all costs. I can't run, she whispered. Then fight, the dragon answered. She hesitated only a second. Then she reached for the old weapon locker on the wall, sealed with a retinal scanner long expired, and placed her hand on the override panel. A tone beeped. Genetic match detected. Bloodline authorization accepted. The locker hissed open. Inside sat a weapon that shouldn't have existed anymore. A phase spike rifle, illegal under every treaty Earth had signed since the Orion Accords. She grabbed it with trembling hands. What happens if I fail? She asked the dragon. Then humanity's greatest secret dies in a janitor's uniform. The lights cut out. The Terminators entered the lab. And Janessa Lorne, janitor nobody, legacy, took her first breath as a soldier. The first shot didn't come from her. It came from the Terminator drone perched on the wall like a spider, its targeting lens glowing red as it fired a pulse round straight at her head. She barely ducked. The plasma scorched a hole clean through the glass containment cradle behind her. The dragon didn't flinch, but the metal around it groaned, sizzled, and melted at the edges. Weaponized AI doesn't ask questions, Janessa muttered, heart pounding. It just follows dead orders. She swung the phase spike rifle up. Clunky, heavy. Nothing like the virtual training simulations she used to sneak into back at the Orbital Academy. Her arms trembled. Breathe, the dragon said in her mind. She didn't ask how. Somehow, it was just there, not a voice. A presence. An anchor. Janessa fired. 3 drones dropped. Their chassis cracked and sparked as the spike rounds punctured core systems, shorting out their legs and AI drivers. One managed to launch a containment net. Janessa rolled sideways, slamming against a lab bench, bones jolting. She pulled a carbon canister from a decom kit and threw it. The lab's flame suppressants hadn't been active in decades, but the volatile chemical inside? Still good. The explosion was small but blinding. Security units approaching through Vent Sector C, the dragon warned. How do you know that? I am this facility. Her eyes widened. What? But there was no time to process that. The power failed. The emergency red lights flicked on. Everything turned hell-colored. The dragon's pod shattered with a hiss. Not an explosion, not a blast, but a surgical release, like it had simply decided the pod didn't matter anymore. No, Janessa shouted. You can't leave. I swore I would remain until the pact was fulfilled, it said, stepping free for the first time in 73 years. Your presence is the fulfillment. Its wings spread. A wave of heat pushed through the room, not burning, not scalding, just old. like it came from the first stars. Janessa shielded her eyes. The Terminators reeled back. Their targeting systems jittered. "They can't process you," she gasped. "They were never meant to." Then the dragon opened its mouth and spoke in a frequency that wasn't sound, a quantum burst of code layered in emotion, memory, and command. The remaining drones dropped, not dead, but blank, wiped. Janessa stood in the middle of the lab, shaking, breathing hard, the rifle still hot in her hands. "What are you?" she asked. "The last peace treaty. Your kind forgot it signed." The doors burst open again. But this time it wasn't drones, it was people. Black-armored, faceless, private military contractors. Not Earth fleet. Corporate, unauthorized, heavily armed. "Target confirmed," one said. "Human asset and entity awake. Terminate both." "Fall back," Janessa yelled, raising her rifle. "No," the dragon said calmly. "We show them the fire she gave her life to bind." And then the battle truly began. The private contractor leading the squad didn't hesitate. He fired. The round was armor-piercing, meant for mechs, and it hit the dragon's center mass. It didn't even flinch. Instead, the creature turned, slowly, deliberately, toward the shooter and exhaled. Not fire, not plasma, but memory. A ripple of golden energy surged forward like sound underwater. The soldier's body convulsed. He screamed once, then dropped. The rest of the squad paused. One man down, no weapon damage detected, just a blank stare on his face. Janessa ducked behind an overturned workstation as return fire lit up the room. "What did you do to him?" she whispered. "I showed him what I saw when I was born," the dragon answered. Some minds collapse under that much truth. She didn't know what that meant. She didn't care. She leveled the phase spike rifle and fired again, this time with purpose. 2 soldiers went down, screaming. One tossed a grav grenade. Janessa dove. The air crunched and her ribs burned from the pressure pulse, but she held on. "You're not a janitor anymore," she told herself. "Your legacy." A red-marked soldier stepped forward. Different armor, sleeker, personalized. "Janessa Lorne," he said through a voice filter. "We know what you are. Surrender the entity. Now." "You have no right to be here," she snapped. "Neither do you." Then he raised a control sphere, initiating Protocol Duskfall. The dragon froze. "What is that?" Janessa asked, eyes wide. "The cage," it whispered. "The final failsafe. The lock she built in case I ever woke enraged." And now it was activating. The lab trembled. Overhead, massive anti-entity pylons emerged from the ceiling, rotating, glowing, charging. The air grew dense, saturated with pressure, memories, something intangible and ancient. The dragon fell to one knee. "Run," it said. "Not a chance," Janessa snapped. She stood between it and the advancing soldiers. Her hands were shaking, her knees weak, but she didn't move. "You called me inheritor. That means I decide, not them." She pulled Alex's datapad from her belt. She'd never been able to crack it, until now. She placed it on the floor. The dragon's glow pulsed toward it. The lock disintegrated. It opened, projecting an old message. "To whoever follows me, if you're watching this, the entity has awakened. You'll be scared. So was I. But listen, it's not a weapon. It's not a GUI. It's a mirror. We feared it because it had showed us what we could become." Janessa looked up at the contractors. "Deactivate the failsafe," she said. "You are not authorized," the red mark replied. "I carry the blood of the first pact maker. That makes me higher than you." "You're a child with a mop," he sneered. "Not anymore." She stomped on the control sphere. Everything stopped. The failsafe died, the energy vanished. The dragon rose, but not to kill. "You are the first in 5 generations," it said, "to choose me, not for fear or power, but for truth." Its wings unfolded, and massive and radiant, not burning but reflecting light back into the universe. "Then let truth burn brighter than war." The dragon turned toward the surviving contractors. "Run!" They did. Janessa stood, breathing heavily, staring at what she had unleashed. Not a monster, but a mirror of the soul of her species. And the mirror was watching her. The battle was over. The blacksite lab, once silent and forgotten, was now scorched, flickering, and soaked in the ashes of classified history. Janessa stood in the center of it all, smoke curling from the collapsed ceiling above. Her uniform was torn, her arms trembled, but her eyes, they were steady. The dragon Entity Argentis, as the files had called it, lowered its massive body beside her like a knight kneeling. Not in submission, but in recognition. She was your grandmother, it said softly. She didn't betray me. She saved me from myself, but she thought humanity wouldn't be ready. Were we? Janessa asked. You are. She looked around the ruined chamber, the broken drones, the empty shells of soldiers who had come expecting to fight a monster. What they had found was truth. 3 hours later, Earthfleet arrived. Too late to stop anything. Too late to control the narrative. By then, Janessa had already uploaded the logs to the Galactic Relay Net, the message Alec left, the original treaty documents, and footage of her standing between the dragon and the weaponized past. The response came fast and not entirely friendly. The Terran Union tried to classify her as rogue. Corporations filed injunctions against her release of blacksite data. Religious orders declared the dragon either an abomination or a holy signal. But none of it mattered, because the galaxy had seen her, not just as a girl, or a janitor, or even a hero, but as a symbol. And in a universe where symbols were rare, she burned brighter than any flag. Later, in a new chamber rebuilt atop the ruins of Atlas, she met with the Galactic Council, not as a petitioner, but as a speaker. What do you want? They asked her. The truth, she replied, unfiltered, unowned, and unburied. That's dangerous. So was he, she said, nodding to the dragon behind her, and we nearly erased him because of it. The council didn't applaud, but they didn't stop her either. That was enough. Back on Earth, the news feed struggled to spin her story. Some called her a traitor, others a visionary, but a growing wave of voices started using another word, inheritor, and that's what she became. The dragon slept again, not in a cage, not under command, but by choice. Janessa sat beside it on the edge of a wide observation deck overlooking the Velis star. Her hands were bandaged, her uniform upgraded. A faint scar now crossed her jaw, a reminder that legacy wasn't just inherited, it was earned. The galaxy was changing. Alien empires that had once watched humanity with suspicion now sent envoys not to Earth's military, but to her doorstep. Old enemies sent letters. Survivors of the Zeridian War, both human and alien, dug up their silence and finally spoke. And the term Death Worlder didn't mean monster anymore. It meant mirror. Alec's final message replayed in her mind often. They'll try to erase the truth. That's what they always do, but if you're stubborn enough, Jan, if you're brave enough, maybe the truth will live long enough to become legend. She looked at her reflection in the glass. Not the girl who mopped floors, not the one who stumbled into fate, but the one who stood between extinction and understanding. The first of a new pact. She reached into her jacket and pulled out something small, an old, broken metal locket, scorched and rusted. She handed it to the dragon as it stirred. She gave this to you, Janessa said, and now you return it. Full circle. The locket vanished beneath the creature's scaled talon. Then it said the words that would echo across history books for centuries. Your kind was feared because it could destroy. Now it is feared because it has learned to choose. Behind them, a new sigil was being carved into the black steel walls of the rebuilt Atlas site. A human hand, wrapped gently in a dragon's claw. Beneath it, a single word in every known language: understanding.